Hello everyone, how are you doing? In today's video, I'll be discussing AMD stock, covering its business profile, annual performance, financials, valuation, future prospects, and I'll conclude with my personal opinion at the end of the video. Let's get started. AMD stands for Advanced Micro Devices, Inc., and its core business is selling semiconductor chips. Top shareholders as of June 2025. The Vanguard Group Inc. are 7.5%, BlackRock Advisors, LLC 6.8%, State Street Corporation 3.7%, Fidelity Investments 2.8%, Capital Research Management 2.5%, Geode Capital Management LLC 1.6%, Dr. Lisa Su, CEO of AMD 0.04%, Mark Papermaster, CTO of AMD 0.02%. Retail other investors 75%. Ownership structure. AMD has no controlling entity. Ownership is fragmented among large institutions. Management holds a minimal stake. 75% shares held by public retail investors. Implications. Strategic decisions are made by the board of directors, often influenced by major institutions. No risk of a hostile takeover by a single shareholder. Stock performance depends on company fundamentals and market sentiment, not on individual control. Here's a summary of AMD's financial performance from 2018 to now. Before 2022, AMD's equity was relatively low. In 2022, AMD acquired Xilinx to strengthen its portfolio in data centers, AI, and energy-efficient computing. As a result, equity surged dramatically from $7 billion to $54 billion. Post-acquisition, revenue consistently stayed above $20 billion compared to below $17 billion before the acquisition. However, net income didn't increase significantly. The most important aspect here is equity. When we buy shares, we are essentially buying a piece of the company's equity. AMD's equity has steadily increased since 2018, which is a positive sign. Let's look at AMD's most recent financial report for Q1 2025. Current assets versus short-term liabilities. Current assets totaled $21 billion, including $6 billion in cash and $5 billion in receivables, both highly liquid. Short-term liabilities stood at $7 billion. This indicates that AMD has more than enough current assets to cover its short-term debts. Capital structure. Total liabilities were $13 billion, while equity was $57 billion. This shows that most of AMD's capital comes from investors and retained earnings, not debt, ideal for long-term shareholders. Revenue net income, or revenue in Q1 2025 declined by 2.8% compared to Q4 2024. The largest contribution came from the data center segment, 49%, followed by client and gaming, 39%. This signals some weakness in business demand. However, net income rose by 47% despite the revenue drop. This was mainly due to a significant 70% decline in tax expenses. Operating cash inflow reached $939 million. Overall, a positive indicator that the business remains healthy. Here is valuation. As of June 18, 2025, AMD's stock was trading at $127.10 per share. ON book value per share, $35.72. Price to book, PB. Ratio, 3.55x. Annualized earnings per share, $1.75. Price to earnings, PE. Ratio, 72.62x. At this price, AMD appears fairly valued. It's important to note that AMD has never paid dividends. Business outlook. Growth drivers. AI, data center expansion. BAW, next-generation CPUs, gaming, and embedded markets. Geopolitical tailwinds. Risks, challenges. NVIDIA's dominance in AI. Intel's recovery efforts. Weak demand in the PC market, 2025-2030. Long-term view. AMD could emerge as a key player in AI inference and energy-efficient computing. If AMD captures more than 20% of the AI accelerator market, its valuation could rise significantly. These developments can be tracked through various business news sources. Conclusion. My take on AMD stock in Q1 2025. In my opinion, AMD is currently a wait-and-see stock. Here's why. Q1 2025 sales declined, which may signal weakness. We need to wait for Q2 results to determine whether this is just a temporary dip or a more serious ongoing issue. Hold off on buying if Q2 sales remain weak. Only consider buying once we see a clear return to growth. Okay, keep monitoring AMD's quarterly reports. News on the global semiconductor industry. This cautious approach helps reduce risk while staying ready for signs of a rebound. That's my analysis of AMD stock. If you have any corrections or additions, feel free to leave them in the comments. See you in the next stock analysis video.